for joining us on this special edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm Diamond Lewis. Now, I'm actually sitting in this seat solo today, but I'll tell you why my co-host Aviva Hoffman is not here with me later on in the show, so stick around. You don't want to miss this special announcement. Now, on today's show, we're focusing on the dedicated, brave men and women who help to improve our quality of life by making sure our community is not plagued by debilitating eyesores. Of course, we're talking about our code enforcement department. From property maintenance, zoning, and vacant homes, they take care of it all to help increase the county's desirability, whether you live here or just happen to be visiting. We're here at the Windy Ridge Estates in Lithonia, where this neighborhood was recently plagued by a vacant home. This is actually the lot of it just behind me. But thanks to our code enforcement officers, this home and many others throughout DeKalb County have been demolished. But we'll tell you more about this lot and that story a little later on in the show. On this edition, we'll talk to some of our code enforcement officers, exploring what it's like to walk in their shoes as they go from issuing citations to dealing with the issues that land code compliance violators in court. And later in the show, we'll talk to those who are charged with leading the charge in this department and creating new initiatives to help communities thrive and improve the overall quality of life for all DeKalb County residents. Our first story talks about some ugly and distracting things. I'm talking about those illegal signs that litter some of DeKalb County's intersections. DCTV's own Elena Daniel has the report on a campaign aimed to put these unsightly banners right where they belong. Elena?
We're here at the third annual Sick of Signs campaign, and as you can see, this campaign continues to make a great impact in the DeKalb County community.
All right, come on guys, let's go ahead and get these signs. This is what I'm talking about. We got to fix this now.
When the Sick of Signs campaign started in DeKalb County in 2013, this was interim CEO Lee May's promise to the residents of DeKalb County.
What we're going to do here is make this a permanent campaign because we don't want to see our community littered with unsightly signs that are promoting God knows what in terms of businesses. We want to make sure that we have a beautiful county, one that is attractive for our residents and for businesses that are doing business here and that want to come to DeKalb County as well. 2
years later, DeKalb County and code enforcement continue to stay dedicated to enforcing that commitment.
A Sick of Signs campaign is a national effort with communities across the country to address the signage, the blight of signage in communities. DeKalb County is committed, and code enforcement is committed to ensuring that the residents of the county have a quality of life that's high. And we want to attract the residents, and we want to attract new businesses here and let them know that we care about how our county looks.
And year after year, the campaign has made a big impact on the quality of life of the community.
This year alone, the amount of signage throughout the community has diminished a lot. Last year, we removed about 35,000 signs, and in 6 months of this year, that number is almost cut in half because the folks that are posting the signs, these violators, understand that we're serious.
And the community has taken notice as well, and they want to keep their community clean and free from illegal signs.
And so, the things that I want to do is help out, keep it clean, keep everything together, and work as hard as I can to keep it that way.
The campaign has even sparked partnerships with other cities throughout the county who are doing their part to spread the word that these signs are not welcomed in their area.
Yeah, well, the city of Lithonia is very pleased to be part of the partnership with DeKalb County in the Sick of Signs campaign. Unfortunately, we have people who don't really appreciate the beauty and value that we have in the community and place these signs all over the place and really add to the litter and clutter. And so we're very glad to be part of this, and we have engaged some of our citizens to participate to show that we really are sick of signs.
All the signs are clear, but if you haven't gotten the message yet, maybe this will clear things up for you.
Don't come to our neighborhood and try to destroy our beauty of the neighborhood.
We're not going to tolerate it.
That's right, DeKalb County is sick of signs, so you better think twice before putting up an illegal sign in their community.
And code enforcement will continue the Sick of Signs campaign and their message to residents that these illegal signs are not welcome in DeKalb County. I'm Elena Daniel. Let's talk DeKalb.
Thanks, Elena. And since the Sick of Signs campaign began in the year 2013, it has become a permanent campaign in DeKalb County. It's just one of many scheduled initiatives and activities to empower and educate residents on the importance of code compliance and county codes and improving our overall quality of life. Coming up next on Let's Talk DeKalb, we will talk to Code Enforcement Administrative Director Marcus Kellum about some new and exciting changes in the Code Enforcement Department. And later on in our show,
what happens if you don't come into compliance for a code violation and you have to go to court? We'll have that story for you coming up.
Stay with us. Much more on this special Code Enforcement edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. Stay with us.
No te preocupes, que van a arreglar tu corazón.
Just wanted to let you know that the surgery went great.
Otra.
Ándele.
¡Eso! Muy bien. Última. Buena.
Everyone has a reason to live a healthier, longer life. What's yours?
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to this special Code Enforcement edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. Our first guest today is Marcus Kellum. He's the Division Administrator of DeKalb County's Code Enforcement Division. He's going to talk to us about his work in leading the charge here in DeKalb for more than 3 years. He's set new policies and initiatives, all to make sure that DeKalb County remains clean and a sustainable and desirable place to live. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Don.
Now, first, talk to us about what exactly is code enforcement and how does it serve to benefit the people here in DeKalb County?
Well, code enforcement is the first line of defense, if you will, for the quality of life. So we're the first responders for ensuring that the neighborhoods are blight-free, ensuring that there are no signs that are junked throughout the county, and ensuring that the residents have a quality of life that's necessary for existence here in DeKalb County. So the Code Enforcement Division is responsible for enforcing the codes and the standards and the ordinances to ensure that quality of life is in place here.
What is your personal philosophy? Because you've been at the head of this ship here in DeKalb County for 3 years now. So
Indeed.
What is your personal philosophy about code enforcement?
My philosophy is that code enforcement is a tool to gain compliance. So our job is to educate, to empower, and to enforce, the 3 E's, if you will. The goal is compliance, but enforcement is just a tool that we use to get to that ultimate goal.
Can you walk me through the steps? Because a lot of people don't know just how vast the road of code enforcement can be. What's the process? So let's say I have a neighbor in my community who is clearly in violation of the DeKalb County Code. Explain to me what that process is.
Sure. So we have the neighbor that may have a junk vehicle in their yard.
Sure.
A vehicle, the tires are flat and windows are broken. So as a neighbor, you can contact our office and give us the information that we need, which is basically sort of the type of vehicle it is and where it is. And then it's our role to go out and conduct an investigation. Every complaint that we receive, our charge is to go out and confirm whether or not it's a violation or not. Some things are just ugly, but ugly is not necessarily a violation of code, right? So,
Got it.
So we have to determine that it is in fact a code ordinance violation. And what we will do is we'll start the process by issuing a notice of a warning notice, letting the person know there is a violation that exists on their property and giving them a time frame to comply. If they fail to comply, the code enforcement officer has a responsibility to then effectuate compliance. And by that, we issue citations for appearance at magistrate court, and then allow the prosecutor to present the case to the judge, and the person has the opportunity to have a bench trial to prove that their property was not in compliance. So our process requires us to confirm that there's a violation, to notify, give the opportunity to comply, and then to move forward with enforcement if deemed necessary.
So there is something that I, the DeKalb County homeowner, can do when I see an issue in my community that I think needs to be addressed.
Absolutely, and we are the ones that will address it. If it doesn't fall within our purview, we'll make sure that it gets to the department or the division that handles that specific complaint.
Really good. Now, Marcus, you said officers.
Yes.
And I actually witnessed some of your officers being sworn in. So these are actual officers who work for your division.
That's absolutely correct. Our code enforcement officers are sworn officers of the court who are empowered with police powers to issue citations. We don't make arrests and we don't carry firearms, but we are sworn officers of the court, and we can request your personal identification, issue subpoenas for magistrate court, and if need be, issue warrants and other subpoenas for court litigation.
What are some of the recent changes that have been implemented within the Code Enforcement Division here in DeKalb County?
The way by which the work was being managed previously didn't meet the amount of work that we were getting. I think that just the volume of work that we were getting caused us to rethink the way we deliver the service. Okay. And it is a service. It's a service-driven type function that required us to reimagine how this is done. So we've had the luxury of breaking into different teams to address the different areas. So we have a team that deals primarily with apartment complexes. They're the multifamily enforcement team. We have a team that deals with complaints. They're the complaint response team. So these are the folks that make the initial contact with the residents, explain to them what the situation is. We have a follow-up team that comes behind them and ensures that the places are in compliance, and if not, then goes forward with any kind of legal action that we need to take. We have an in-rem abatement team, which deals with demolitions and property cleanups. So we had to break into a functional type response in order to meet the need and the demand on the street.
So your office really functions to protect and preserve the quality of life here in DeKalb County.
That's absolutely
Now let's quantify that.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately how many calls or complaints do you all receive into your office to investigate, let's say, every year?
Yeah, last year alone, we conducted 25,000 inspections, which required us to receive the actual complaints, respond to them, and then take action in order to bring into compliance. Wow. So the volume is high. We have, on a daily basis, we have visitors to the office, walk-ins. We receive faxes, emails, phone calls. The phone call volume, we probably receive about 2,000 to 3,000 phone calls a day with requests for service or service requests.
And I know you guys are doing a great job, because I had the honor of freezing in the code with you and your team during a recent crackdown that you all had. Yes. And we kind of walked around the neighborhood and just asked some of the neighbors there, you know, what do you think about seeing the code enforcement officers being out here today? And we went into the home of a 90-plus-year-old woman.
Yes.
She had been in this home for obviously decades, and she said that she literally witnessed her own neighborhood going down, and she felt like you all coming in was going to breathe a new breath of fresh air to her community. So that's the work that you do. I know you have to feel proud about that.
Ultimately, that's what we want to see. We want to see the transformation of the neighborhoods in DeKalb County.
Sure.
We want to see people excited about being outside of their houses and bragging about living in DeKalb County and being proud of the county that has so much potential and bring it back to where it was before. And I think that we're the drivers of that force. We're the ones who are on the front line to, we're the neighborhood rehabilitation first responders.
Wow.
I think I may put that on the side of our vehicles.
That's pretty good. You heard it here first. Now, let me ask you this. What is the chief complaint that you receive? 25,000 is obviously a large volume.
Indeed.
But what's the largest complaint that you all typically receive here in your office?
I guess we have during the spring and summer seasons, high grass and weeds. People just, the failure of some of the residents to just maintain their lawn.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm teasing.
That wasn't you. That is one of the most popular complaints, definitely during the spring and the summer seasons. However, the second one is vacant and abandoned buildings. So we have these properties that are, for one reason or the other, may have been involved in a fire, and the property owners maybe just walked away from it, or the property owners may have passed on, and there's no family members to maintain the property. So we're responsible for dealing with those types of vacant and abandoned properties.
And we're actually going to have an interview with Tonza Clark from your office a little later on this show, and she's going to talk to us about that program.
Yes, that's correct.
That's wonderful. And then I've got to ask you, you seem to be a visionary in this area, so tell me, what's next for code enforcement here in DeKalb County?
Code enforcement, what's next?
Big question.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I envision a department that has the understanding of the neighborhood. It has to be a synergy. We have to create the synergies with the neighborhoods. We have to empower the community to come back out and to work with us to rebuild the community block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and then we will help to bring that vision to life. We are sort of the neighborhood, the residents in the neighborhood are ambassadors, and we're the UN. So we're the peacekeeping force. We're going to support the movement to ensure that the ultimate goal is accomplished, but we need the help of the residents, and I envision us working together in a great synergy, all the county departments, the residents, and code enforcement bringing together the uprise of DeKalb County.
Right, and it's just not the aesthetics of what you do, but it's also preventing crime.
Yes, it has a crime element, it has an economic development element, it has the aesthetic piece. So and I like that first responders, we are definitely the neighborhood rehabilitation first responders. I like that.
Just make sure you give DCTV credit.
You guys will receive the credit.
All right. Then my last question for you is, how should residents and why should residents serve as these ambassadors that you mentioned? Because it's really a joint effort.
Indeed. While we have limited staff, we can't be in a community of 750,000 people. It's difficult for us to be in every neighborhood every day when these violations happen. So we need the assistance. We need the help of the residents to work with us, to talk to your neighbor first before we're the ones that's responding. Work with us. Let's build the relationship, and I think that gives us the ability to carry out our duty and to rebuild DeKalb County.
Well, we certainly appreciate all the work that you and your team is doing here in DeKalb County.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Marcus.
Thank you.
Now here's a part of code enforcement that people oftentimes don't get a chance to see. What happens when a resident actually fails to comply with the citation and then they're summoned to court? Here's DCTV's own Crystal Thomas with that story.
It may be fun to watch on television, but it's a place you never want to end up, court. But if you have a violation, you have to pay the consequences. And for some, that means having your day in court.
We always try to work with the property owners and the business owners, things of that nature, but sometimes we do have to bring them to court and let the legal system do its job.
From fines to pleas to mounds of evidence and debates on violations from tall grass to abandoned homes, these are the things that could land you in court. And officers Hawthorne, Herring, and Onisha Scott have seen it all.
What brings most of our citizens to court are things like failure to comply, bring their property up to DeKalb County code standards. And it can be anything from a junk vehicle, dilapidated exterior roof, it could be the exterior siding, anything like that.
Our main violation would be high grass and weeds, open storage, vacant and unsecure. Those would land us here in court because the owners have just walked away or the home has become foreclosed.
Being summoned to court is simple. If you fail to come into compliance, then you are issued a criminal citation. After that, the residents and the code enforcement officers have an opportunity to meet with the attorney solicitor's office to go over the violation or violations. At that point, the resident can make a plea and pay a fine, or if they feel they have enough evidence to dispute the violation, they can go to trial.
We'll meet with the attorneys and we'll discuss whether or not they're in compliance, what type of difficulties we've had with the property and with the property owner. And they really try to take everything into consideration. We present our photos, we present the chain of ownership, interest, everybody that's involved with that. And we actually investigate these cases pretty deep.
Even though it is the job of a code enforcement officer to investigate violations and uphold county codes, the fact of the matter is, court is the last place an officer wants a resident to be because of a violation.
Court is the last resort. We issue warning notices. If the violations haven't been corrected with the warning notice, then we're posting placards to the property, allowing the owners to come into compliance or make contact with us. But if they don't do that within the 15 days as stated on the placard, then we have to issue criminal citations. So yes, we make every effort for the owners and residents to come into compliance prior to bringing them here, because that's taking more money out of their pockets to where they can be at home making the repairs, removing the vehicles, registering the vehicles to come into compliance.
And although coming into compliance for some residents may be hard, avoiding time in court is actually pretty simple. As long as you are making the effort to come into compliance and relaying your progress to code enforcement, you will rarely find yourself facing a judge.
Most time, if a citizen will call our officer, call an officer that is handling the case, we can extend them, but they have to call us. We can't call them. For example, if they have a grocery list of issues with the property, if they call me and they say, hey, I got A, B, and C done, but I didn't get the other violations corrected, then we feel more at ease because we can justify why we extended them a little bit more time. And so that's a person that very seldom ends up in court because they call the county, they call the officer that's over the case, and we work together that way. And the county never has a problem with that.
If it deals with coming into compliance, of course, no one has a problem with it. In fact, it's the goal that everyone is striving to achieve. Now, no code enforcement officer wants to have residents go through this process. They're here to work with you, not against you. But if you're not going to abide by county code, then they might have to see you in court. I'm Crystal Thomas. Let's talk DeKalb.
Thanks, Crystal, for that story. Now, in most cases, a court summons is actually the last resort when dealing with code enforcement issues. To make sure you avoid even receiving a court summons, simply work with your code enforcement officers to make sure you understand the code of DeKalb County and how you, too, can comply. Up next on Let's Talk DeKalb, we're going to take you inside the day in the life of a DeKalb County code enforcement officer. And later,
I'm going to tell you how code enforcement was able to help this neighborhood get rid of a vacant home in their community.
That much more on this special code enforcement edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. Stay with us.
Get your ass. You're not in here. Yes, I am. Move. Give it to him hard.
No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why are you stabbing me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how. Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
I am a mother.
I am an entrepreneur.
I'm a journalist.
I am a singer.
A businesswoman. I am an artist.
An educator.
A sister.
An advocate.
A leader. A queen.
I am a friend.
I am one of more than a million people living with HIV in the U.S.
We are not alone. Let's stop HIV together.
Get the facts. Get tested. Get involved.
Welcome back to this edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. We're focusing today on the dedicated service of the men and women in DeKalb County's Code Enforcement Office. In fact, our next guest is Senior Code Enforcement Officer Barbara Lorena, who's been with DeKalb County for 8 years now, working on a variety of unique code enforcement cases all throughout the county, helping residents come into compliance. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, you've been with DeKalb County's Code Enforcement Office for more than 8 years. Tell us about how was the Code Enforcement Department when you first started as opposed to now?
Well, when I first started with Code Enforcement, it was a fairly small unit, about a dozen officers. We had large areas. Our time lead was anywhere from 20 to 45 days to do an inspection.
Wow.
And a lot of things were manual. The officers went out there, we conducted the inspection, we wrote down the activities and our findings. Then we would bring it back to our ad personnel where they would input it. That would probably take anywhere from about 3 days to about a week's time. Now we have triple the size in the unit. We have our time lead running from anywhere from 1 day to 5 days, the complaint response situation, and we are dealing with real time where the officers can actually call it in and our ad personnel input it quickly. Or most of the officers will come in right back to the office, same day, the following day, and input their findings.
Now, we understand the complexity and the tough situations that you oftentimes deal with. So I'm wondering, how does that empower you in your role, given the new climate, the new changes, the fact that you're able to be that much more impactful and effective in your job today?
As a citizen of DeKalb County, I'm proud to say that I've seen a lot of progress. The leadership team right now, where in the past we've had management, we have a leader. And he's very encouraging and supportive. I take a forceful role within my subdivision itself. I take pride in being a code enforcement officer because it is personal to me. My daughter actually goes to school here as well, and I am a property owner. We have a lot of tools that we use. We are approachable. The citizens are being more and more informed and educated about the importance of code enforcement. Where in the past, I don't think they were too familiar with us. And now we're part of the community, and they realize that.
I can tell that you truly have passion and a stake in the game of what you're doing. So tell me about what has been one of the most rewarding experiences for you thus far as a code enforcement officer here in DeKalb?
I have several. Every time I go to a location and I see compliance upon my reinspection, I'm happy. But I do have one case in particular that it took me some time working it, well over a year. It was a place of worship. And the transition was going from old management to new management. It took a lot of time and a lot of effort with other entities within DeKalb County. And I'm pleased to say, even through all the struggles, the citizen of that location, after spending a substantial amount of money, was happy when we came into compliance, and he thanked me. I'm happy to say also, when the transition occurred during our management team, my past manager never actually went to the location, but Mr. Kellum immediately met me out at that site and assisted me, and we finalized and brought that particular unit into compliance. And that was good for the community.
Because this show, we're highlighting the good work and services of the Code Enforcement Department, but what does code enforcement mean to you as an individual and as a citizen of DeKalb?
Okay. Well, as an individual of a code enforcement officer, we provide a good service. We're assisting in the beautification of DeKalb County. We're assisting in the stabilization of DeKalb County. And a lot of time I have to let the citizen know I'm not here to enforce with a court summons, but I'm here to educate and assist in making the property up to code and making it better. And that's a better community. It's a stronger community. It actually also helps with our situation with crime. Right. The cleaner the area is, the less crime you have. So our neighbors could get to know each other.
Now, we know that you're doing a great service, and those who may call in the issue are ecstatic to see you. But then those who may be on the receiving end of the information may not be so happy to see you.
That's true.
Because they're not in compliance. So talk to me about, how do you diffuse a situation? Because I know sometimes it may not be as easy. You may not be as welcomed as we'd like to believe you
That's
are.
true. I have some that they're not pleased to see me, of course. I'm not delivering good news. But I try to educate them. First of all, I never take it personal. When they're elevating their voice or they're venting, I allow them to do so. And then I just let them know of the ordinance. Because a lot of times they're unaware.
Sure.
They feel as if it is their property and they should be able to do what they want to do. But in letting them know how it impacts the community, they have understanding. They're not happy, but they do understand. And with that behind it, then they're more receptive into understanding that they need to come into compliance.
Now, I would like for you to just oblige me in this request.
Okay.
Walk me through your end of the steps that you take as a code enforcement officer. So let's say you receive, a call or an email indicating there may be someone who's not in compliance with the DeKalb County Code. Walk me through the steps.
Okay. Well, our office receives the complaints, whether it's phone, email, fax, or they're calling it in. It's inputted, we receive a service request. I do the research as far as ownership of the property or if there's an occupant. Then I go out to the location. Ring the doorbell, knock on the door, someone answers the door. Depending, sometimes I introduce myself. I'm Officer Lorena from DeKalb County, letting them know that there is a complaint. If I actually recognize or notice that there is a violation. Now, if there is, I let them know quickly of the situation. They're sometimes startled by, well, who called? Most of our calls are done anonymously, and I let them know of that. I inform them that there is a time frame. I'm going to issue a warning notice, and it is just a warning notice. If they require more time frame, after I see some kind of progress, I'll gladly give an extension. That I am available. Anytime they have a question or a concern, they can give me a call. And through it, we work on it. I mean, the first approach is just giving time to correct the violation. The final step is a court summons. Most of the time, that's not what we're aiming for, actually. We're aiming for compliance. For the few that are unwilling to comply, then unfortunately, we have to go to the enforcement end. And then that's when I issue a court summons.
So I really want to focus on that. So the court summons is not the first part. What you're telling me is you are willing to work with the constituents. You're willing to explain to them what it is and help them get into compliance. So you don't even have to go down that road. You're actually here to help.
That's correct, Diamond. We are. Because if the time that you actually issue a court summons, you've done a disservice. The goal is compliance. I have some that it may be an exterior structure problem, and that takes money, that takes time. I inform them always, let me see progress. Let's do one side at a time. Do the front, do the left, do the rear. Clean the exterior. I'll give you an extension. If you require more time, again, I'll give you an extension. When a substantial amount of time has lapsed, then a court summons may be issued. Even during the time when they're in court, after they've come into compliance, that fine is reduced because now they're in compliance. And the entire community is happy, definitely the ones that called in, and even the citizen that's correcting the violation, they're aware of the situation, and they're happy they've got it done.
So you're working with those who may be in violation of the code, but then you're also, I want to hear from you, why is it important for residents to work with the code enforcement officer? And when I say that, I mean, these are our communities. We put our hard-earned money into our communities to buy our home. We take pride in our homes, and I'm guilty of it. You know, we'll drive down the road and say, oh, I can't believe that eyesore is there. But we don't do anything. We just complain about it. But we have the ability to call in the complaint and fix it. There is empowerment for residents in DeKalb County. That empowerment comes through using your office as a resource. So talk to me about the importance of having the residents reach out to you when they see there's an issue in their community.
It's very important. A lot of the citizens that may be in violation, they'll point out other violations. And I'll ask them, well, have you called it in? Well, that's not my business, that's not my concern. I inform them it is your concern, it is your business. When you have the vandalism, when you have the break-ins, that's because you have a dilapidated situation. And if you call it in, we'll address it. At times, when you speak with your neighbors, reach out. They may have a problem. They may not have operable equipment. Share the equipment. I myself, I've gone to properties within my subdivision, and I've cut the lawn.
Wow.
I've worked with my neighbors, and we've stabilized our own little small subdivision within DeKalb County. We take pride in our property, and it's important. That's our number one equity that we have. I would say for the average person, that's what you're going to spend a lot of money on. That's usually a way of retirement when you have that home paid in full and you can look at it and it still has value. It hasn't depreciated. And that's important for the citizens to understand.
That's wonderful. And my final question is, I see the code enforcement trucks out all the time. So when we drive by those trucks, what should we think about the men and women who are out there doing the work of the code enforcement department?
We're not there to punish the citizens. We're there to assist the citizens. We're part of the community, and it matters. And we just ask for your assistance in doing the job.
Barbara, thank you so much for joining us on today's show and for all that you're doing to keep DeKalb County beautiful.
Thank you, Diamond. I'm happy to be here.
We also got the chance to spend a day in the life with one of Barbara's fellow officers in action. Here's a look at what it's like to actually walk in the shoes of a code enforcement officer here in DeKalb County. Here's DCTV's own Anastasia Martin with that story.
We had the opportunity to ride along with Code Enforcement Officer Douglas Chandler. He gathers his equipment, paperwork, and heads up to the parking deck to inspect his vehicle before heading out, making sure he's prepared for the long day ahead.
Today, I'm out here on the ball, ready to go get it.
Most people know code enforcement officers as the ones that cite you if your curb appeal is less than satisfactory. However, their job description is a bit more complex than that. They are in many ways the community first responders that encourage, change, and save neighborhoods from blight.
Just being out here and making a difference in where I work, you know, and actually seeing it rather than sitting behind a desk, even though we do a lot of that. Seeing out here where you're addressing issues about citizens have complaints and you're following up with them, you're enforcing our code, and you actually see a difference when you drive by. You actually really do.
Like any other job, it has its rewards, but it also comes with its challenges. Not everyone is happy when they have to speak with an officer about a violation on their property.
A lot of times we're the bad guy, a lot of times. But I believe it's all how you approach it, in the delivery, in the education of it, just what you're there for, you know. And sometimes, again, those hard situations can turn pretty good, you know, once they understand why you're there, who you are, and what needs to be done.
And indeed, most of the time residents are cooperative. However, Officer Chandler still refers back to his training before approaching any property.
So what's going through my mind usually, number one is safety out here. Number two, okay, what is the problem? Number three, hopefully we can make contact with an individual so we can rectify the problem on the property.
And all of his skills go to work as soon as he steps foot on the property.
How you doing today, sir? What's going on? Sir, you the owner of the property? My mom is. Okay. My name is Officer Chandler with DeKalb County Code Enforcement, and we got a call complaining about vehicles being parked on the yard.
He takes photos of the violations, and then he has to play the bad guy and deliver some not so happy news to the homeowner.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing? You the owner? Owner of the property? How you doing? I'm Officer Chandler.
Angela Jackson.
Ms. Jackson, pleasure to meet you. Of course, you may not like what I have to say, but I'm here. Being that the vehicles are on the property, and they should all have proper tags and be operable also at the same time. I understand you're working on it, but if it's not operable, I see some work potentially have been done or in the process on and off, and that's not allowed in DeKalb County. Okay, that's actually a code violation that you're in violation of. Them being on the property, I'm going to have to issue tickets today.
Of course, no one is ever happy about receiving a citation, but the resident accepts the ticket as Officer Chandler explains to her exactly what she is being cited for and how long she has to come into compliance.
Either remove the vehicles get them back up to par.
When out in the field, every situation is different. Some are calm and go without incident. Some may even get out of control. But for some residents, a code enforcement officer knocking at your door can be heartbreaking and add more stress to an already deteriorating situation.
Hey, officer, I'm a retired man from DeKalb County working for 40 years. I don't have no money. I put $10,000. I'm glad y'all put me in the I don't put at least $10,000 in the roof and I cannot fix it. I don't did everything I know to do.
Officer Chandler listens to the resident's emotional plea. This resident not only has an open storage violation and overgrown grass in his backyard, he also has major roof damage but has not been able to afford to fix it.
It's been like this for 8 years. You think I want it? I hate it. You think I love living like this? I hate this.
Even though code enforcement officers have a job to do, they are not without compassion for the citizens they serve.
You kind of just have to, again, not be so, cold to a lot of situations, but you really have to listen. I know this job takes a little more than just going out here and enforcing something that's on paper, that's a legal law, and saying you must do it. You really have to consider where people are in life, what's going on in their life.
This resident is given a warning and time to come into compliance.
Just like I explained to you, you do everything you can, okay?
But you see, I'm sincere.
I do, and I understand. So we're here to work with you, okay? You do one thing at a time.
Yes.
All right. Everything that your able hands will do right now. Okay. Sometimes we almost might as well be the one to evict you out of the property. But sometimes that's not the case, and you still have a job to do, thinking back in your mind, if it's gonna take a while to get the property in compliance, then so be it. But there's still a job that needs to be done, one house at a time, starting with that house.
And as more code enforcement officers are going out in the field, inspecting property after property, they hope residents see them not as the villain, but as the hero.
When I'm out here making a difference with citizens and you hear the complaints firsthand, whether you go to a property and you address the situation or you do a follow-up inspection, and that citizen or that neighbor or anyone in the community just saying, you know what, you guys are doing a great job. We see you guys out here. You got a lot of work to do, but we appreciate you.
And those words stay with Officer Chandler each time he sets foot on a property.
Just the overall changing of a community, seeing that brings satisfaction to me. And I know I can speak on behalf of many fellow officers. It just makes you say, if I can do that, I can do the next property, I can do the next neighborhood.
As you can see, every day and every situation is different for each code enforcement officer. But one thing remains the same. They're compassionate about what they do and in how they affect change in DeKalb County. I'm Anastasia Martin. Let's talk DeKalb.
Thanks, Anastasia. And now, as you can see, the job of a code enforcement officer is not always the easiest one, but it certainly is a rewarding job. Now, you may not hear it enough, but we would like to personally say thank you to all of the men and women here in DeKalb County for the work that you do in maintaining and protecting the quality of life here in our great county. Up next on Let's Talk DeKalb, we'll talk to Foreclosure Registry Manager Tonza Clark about how her division is tackling vacant homes in DeKalb and what's next for the Foreclosure Registry. And later,
I'm going to tell you how code enforcement used a new program to demolish a vacant home in this community.
That and much more on this special code enforcement edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. Stick around.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course.
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
Welcome back to Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm Diamond Lewis. We're focusing today on our code enforcement efforts all throughout DeKalb County. Our next guest is tasked with tracking and addressing the issue which impacts us all in our respective communities. That issue is blight. Tonza, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Diamond.
Now, first off, you have to explain there are two separate registries that you actually manage. Explain to us the difference between the foreclosure registry and the vacant property registry here in DeKalb.
Yes, the foreclosure registry, we actually started that program about 5 years ago. The Board of Commissioners passed the first foreclosure registry in the state of Georgia, and that one basically was to make sure that properties that were foreclosed was upkept, make sure that they were in compliance, and also to make sure that property owners register those properties with the county so that we can hold them accountable and also know who owns the properties. After we started to get a handle on the foreclosures and making sure that they're maintained, then we noticed that we had another issue that popped up in the county, and that was basically with those vacant properties. After they've been foreclosed for so long, they started to deteriorate literally. So what the Board of Commissioners did was pass the vacant registry program. And basically what that allowed us to do is not only pay attention to those foreclosed properties, but any property that was in a vacancy status. And so the same requirements apply. Property owners have to register the properties with the county, pay a registration fee, and then our code enforcement officers go out and they make sure that those properties are maintained.
And you've had tremendous success with both of these registry programs.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Well, we were the first in the state of Georgia, and we like to say that we're probably the most successful foreclosure registry in the entire country.
That's awesome.
A lot of jurisdictions, not only in Georgia, but throughout the country, uses DeKalb County as a model on which they will structure their program around. And basically it was because we actually go out to make sure, not just that the properties are registered, but to make sure that they are maintained, because ultimately that is what the community wants. We have, an issue with these properties in DeKalb County where they will deteriorate over time, and it has a domino effect on the neighborhood, from property values to economic development. So
crime.
Exactly. And so the blighting effect really affects us all. So we've been able to go in, make sure that these officers, and we have a special team of officers that go out and enforce these properties. They work every day. They go out, they do inspections, issue warning notices or citations, and they follow that property until it's either complied with or we take it to court and it goes through the adjudication process.
Now explain this to me. So if I'm a resident in DeKalb County and I notice this property that has been vacant for a long time, it's an eyesore, what's my process? How do I contact your office and make sure that I'm clear on the steps of going through the vacant property registry program?
The registry program is not for your regular homeowners to register the property. It's for whoever owns that vacant property to report it to us, register the property. However, what we encourage our residents who are living next to these properties, what we encourage them to do is partner with us, work hand in hand with DeKalb County to make sure these properties are identified. And we do know which ones are vacant. However, we ask that they help us in identifying the properties, call them in to code enforcement. We'll issue a service request, and what we do is treat those as a priority. So we will have an officer to go out there within 72 hours to basically start the process of inspecting the property, contacting the homeowner, because not all vacant properties are blighted properties.
Sure.
We have some vacant properties that are homeowners are keeping up the properties. However, we've identified potentially about 10,000 properties throughout the county. These are residential properties that are vacant. with the officers that we have dedicated to the vacant registry and foreclosure registry programs, we have a total of 4 officers. So they're not going to get to all those properties immediately. It's going to take time, especially when they're taking it from the inspection process all the way through the court process. So what we ask is work with us. We're in this together. Call it in. What we'll do is treat it as a priority. We'll go out there within 72 hours, make sure that the properties are maintained by taking it through the process.
Now explain to me, what exactly is the NREM program? I want to make sure I said it right.
Yes.
This is my new term now,
Yes.
NREM.
The NREM program, and the registries work hand in hand along with code enforcement, work hand in hand with that NREM process. All it is another tool that the county has in place. It's a demolition program. And how it works, properties that are not structurally fit, they pose a hazard to the community, whether it's a burnt structure, dilapidated structure. So it has to pose that danger of, physical harm where someone can go in there and really get hurt. So a lot of it that will qualify to your properties that are not 100% structurally sound. And what we do is we go out and, like we normally do with any code enforcement process, we inspect the property, we take it through the court process, and then it goes to the NREM process where we have to have a judge that will sign off on it to say, we ordered the county to demolish this property. And of course, the property owner has to sign over some rights to the county to be able to demolish the property. And that has been a huge success. Since we've started that program, we've had about 35 properties this year that's been demolished. And that is the most properties in the history of DeKalb County, 10-year history of DeKalb County, that we've been able to demolish. So it's a slow process, but we are making gains.
I've got to brag on you. You said that real fast. I want us to say it again. Now, what I'm being told is that because of this new program, in the first 3 quarters of this year, we have demolished more homes than we have in the last 10 years here in DeKalb County because of the success of this program.
Yes, that is true.
That's huge.
That is true. Yes. And, and it's not just one program. This issue with these vacant properties, with the foreclosed properties that's been neglected over a significant period of time, there's not one solution.
Right.
So we have to take this, we have to go, about trying to create a solution by using many different angles. So we're trying to attack it from different areas. Foreclosure registry is one. Vacant property registry is another one. The NREM program is another one. We're looking at abatement. So if we can try different strategies, in the end, I think DeKalb County will be in a great place.
There are some jobs where you just dedicate your all to because you really know that you are making an impact in your community. And I've known you for years. I've had the pleasure of working with you for years. I know that you're a mom, a family person, a community person. So tell me about how you feel personally because of the impact of the work that you're doing here in DeKalb.
One of the things, Diamond, I've been a resident in DeKalb County for almost 30 years. And I feel a personal investment because I live in the community. I'm engaged in the community. Like I always try to say, I'm a PTA mom. So my children have to grow up in this county. And just seeing where DeKalb County has gone, over the past few years as a result of this foreclosure crisis, we have a great community. We have great residents, and we have to do everything that we can to make sure that DeKalb County is restored to that jewel that it once was. And it still is a jewel, but it takes all of us to have that passion, and not just the county, not just county government, but our neighbors working together, our homeowners association. We've got to get together and work together to make sure that this county remains what we need it to be.
My final question, tell me about the reception of those neighbors, the people who live, work, play in DeKalb County. Tell us about the reception you received since these programs have been implemented.
One thing I can say is when we go out, people know that we're making a difference. And I really try to be honest and truthful because sometimes our residents think that these things can happen overnight, and it can't. But once they understand the process, they know and they see the difference, especially, and there's no greater joy in knowing that a property has been dilapidated for years and all of a sudden we've cleaned up that eyesore. And you have to understand, because our residents are passionate about their communities. And it's disheartening when you know you live next door to a property and you have to come out of your home every day and look at this blighted property. And so we have to understand what that feels like. No one wants to live next to that blighted property. So when we finally clean it up, it's really a great feeling. And I think our residents understand, they see the work that we're doing, and especially when we engage with them and they work with us to get it cleaned up. I think it's just a really great, rewarding feeling.
Tonza Clark, thank you so much for your passion and the work that you continue to be committed to doing here in DeKalb County.
Thank you.
Okay, stick around. We have much more of this special code compliance edition of Let's Talk DeKalb just after the break. Stick around.
Because of this house, I feel a sense of freedom.
Because of this house, I see hope.
Because of this house,
we have a different ending to our story.
Because of this home, we can do anything that our hearts desire.
I have peace at mind.
Because of our house, there are endless possibilities.
Because of this house, my sisters and I were happy children.
I see a brighter future.
I'm a better person.
My eyes have been opened. It's giving me my life.
Because of this house, I'm home.
You can change the lives of families in your community and around the world. Join us. Habitat. We build.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation.
You're resigning?
Why? You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. Oh, I forgot. I'll do better. Please don't quit on me.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
Welcome back to Let's Talk DeKalb. I'm Diamond Lewis. Now, we've been focusing on DeKalb County's code enforcement efforts throughout our show, but now we're going to break format just for a minute because I have a surprise for you. You may have noticed that I've been without my co-host on this show, and that's because we have an awesome surprise for you here at DCTV. Joining us now is our own Aviva Hoffman. She's going to tell us about her new show that she'll be hosting called The Furry Files. Aviva, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. This is a switch, but I want to say you're doing a great job. The show is awesome.
Thank you. And now you have an awesome show to tell us about. Tell us about The Furry Files.
The Furry Files. It's an amazing show. I'm very excited about it. It's all things animals in DeKalb County, and we really get a chance to go in depth about all of the hard-working, employees of DeKalb County, as well as people in the community, organizations, volunteers. And we start with, jam-packed first show already out of the gate.
Of course.
Yes, we interview Zan Rawls, the Director of Animal Enforcement, and her hard-working employees, and what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis is amazing. And you'll get to see a little bit of behind the scenes about that. And really what they do affects thousands of animals and also many, many people. They are there to help, and so that's kind of exciting. And then we have a really fun feature sprinkled throughout the show, the Furry Files Fun Facts. Our Jay Breedlove, he's so funny and he's cool and hip, and he helps, impart some wisdom for pet owners especially, and those segments are going to be kind of exciting. We also introduce our viewers to AWARE, Atlanta Wild Animal Rescue Effort. Think about it. Diamond, if you were going down the road and you saw a turtle and it had obviously been hit, but it was still clinging to life, what would you do? What do you think our viewers would do about that?
Okay, now you're asking that question because that's an actual true story with me.
Well, that's true. Actually, I kind of forgot, but I remember that story. I know what you did, but what do you think most people would do, I guess? By the way, she saved the turtle. She relocated it to a safer place. To a safer place.
My nephews called him Fire.
Fire.
But
Fire.
we saved the turtle, but I think most people would either drive by the turtle and not help, or maybe even call 911.
Right, and before I got to know about the AWARE Wildlife Center, I would have, chalked it up to nature or that's life, a turtle. This center takes in those wildlife creatures that have been injured, and it's everything. It's owls and deer and, you know, furry little chipmunks and turtles, even lizards and other things that I won't even mention. I'm not going there, but
She does have a fear of reptiles.
right. But so I'm really impressed, and they have a lot of volunteers. They have an amazing veterinarian, Dr. Tara Hadley. She's on the show. She'll be reoccurring on the show, and people in the audience, the viewers, have a chance to even send in questions for our veterinarian to answer questions about pets or wildlife. You know, so I'm real excited. And of course, we have a nice feature that incorporates our viewers. We are asking you for your pictures. Send us your cute pet pictures. You know, we bring them in, and you're saying, okay, where to send them. That is at an email, furryfiles, FURRYFILES, at DeKalbCountyGA.gov. And it's just going to be really fun. We got some little interactions going. I can't forget, every episode also has our Diamond Lewis to really bring something special to every episode. It's going to be our transformative story. And we already, you know, have a couple of them that we've worked on.
Fantastic
Tell us
stories.
About those, because that's your babies.
Wait, you're asking me the questions now?
Yeah, no, I just did a little flip.
So the first story is going to be about Xena the warrior puppy. And the story is so cool because it's a story about the underdog. Xena was really, they didn't think she was going to live.
Right.
She had been abused and hadn't been fed, and it was really a sad story. But not only has Xena lived and is doing very well.
Thriving, really.
But now she's also helping to bring life out of a little boy who's autistic. So it's a love story of this underdog and a young child. So it's a fantastic story, and I was really honored to be able to share the story with the viewers here on DCTV and on the Furry Files.
That's right, and I'm just really excited about this new show, and I think it'll really bring something special for our viewers, and you know, just to highlight all these wonderful things. I'm looking forward to it going on, and I'm going to miss this show, but I'm going to be watching it because it's an awesome show too. So.
Now, one quick question for you. You're being very modest. The reason we thought, you know what, this is the perfect kind of show for Aviva is because you truly have a passion for animals.
Oh, that is true, very much. And I have a dog at home. If I could have a lot more, and if my kids had any say-so in it, we would have a farm. But yeah, I think I do have a soft spot for animals. Those animals have been a part of my life. Cats, dogs, you know, since I can remember, and birds, and all the typical things. And truly getting to know, especially some of the DeKalb County employees, and if they have to go into a house that's a hoarding situation, or, you know, my heart reaches out to each and every critter that's, you know, dealing with this. And we need these kind of people to help rescue in these kind of situations. So I am thrilled, and I'm learning so much, you know, like I refer to the Aware Wildlife Center. I didn't know you could, you know, get a veterinarian, an animal doctor to look at these creatures and nurse them back to life if they can. They do those kind of things. Yeah,
Thank you. We thank you for the work that you're doing, but I've got to ask you, the Furry Files is a really cool name. Where'd that come from?
Well, you know the answer. Is this Lawyer 101? You're asking a question you already know the answer to. But
this is called Grilling Your Former Co-Host. That's what this is called.
Well, we sat around as a team like DCTV often does, and we had a wonderful, you know, powwow, and we threw out all kinds of names.
Nice brainstorming.
Yes, we did. And the producer now of this show, Let's Talk DeKalb, Elena Daniel, she came up with that term, the Furry Files, and everybody loved it as soon as they heard it. It just clicked.
Well, kudos to Elena.
Yes.
And kudos to you for the work that you're doing on
Thank
the Furry
you.
Files.
Thank
Now,
you.
one more time, how can we submit questions for the vet, and also how can we submit our photos with our home pets?
Thanks for asking. That is Furry Files, FURRYFILES, at DeKalbCountyGA.gov.
Now, Viva, we've allowed you to do your plug,
Yes.
your shameless plug on the show.
Yes.
But if you think you're getting out of here with doing a little bit of work for Let's Talk DeKalb, you've got another thing coming. So,
okay,
for old time's sake, would you please toss it to our next package?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, let me see. Well, we're here at this lot, and it has some significance for the Code Enforcement edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. And, you know, let's face it, it's bad enough if you have a vacant home in your community, but it's even worse if you live right next door to it. However, a new DeKalb County program called NREM is helping code enforcement tear down these vacant homes quickly and easily, and that's making a lot of residents very happy. Here's DCTV's own Jontrika West with that story.
Imagine having to live next to this eyesore with its burnt shell and broken windows staring you in the face every day. If you can't imagine it, just talk to Windy Ridge Estates resident, Danny Triplin.
I live right next door, 6325 Windy Ridge Way.
For 3 years, this vacant home has been an annoying eyesore in the community.
You know, one of the biggest things is that every time I would have a family function or have friends over, they would come over and look, is that house still there? And, you know, it was just kind of like obvious, yes it is.
However, Danny Triplin can also tell you about how code enforcement worked with him and his community to get this eyesore torn down using the NREM program, which allows the county to demolish property that is privately owned.
Thanks to Mr. Jordan and the Code Officer Adams, they explained the NREM process and how that was going to go and what that was going to take. I mean, it was a long time coming, but they were extremely patient with me and constantly kept me informed.
After all the pieces were in place, it was finally time to demolish the home. As the home is being torn down, residents look on in amazement and even take photos of the site they thought they'd never see.
I'm really happy to see it gone. We don't have to worry about children going in anymore or looters trying to take it for aluminum and copper wire and things of that nature. And it's just more for the safety of the community and no longer an eyesore.
We are appreciative of everyone who has been involved and who stepped up and taken care of this.
We're totally excited, and I just can't thank DeKalb enough and all the different departments that are here. And we took over 3 years to get it processed. It has now been torn down in less than an hour.
This is the first private property that has been demolished using the NREM program. Before, the county could only demolish county-owned property, but now this new program will be a great tool to help code enforcement fight the blight in the county.
This is incredible. I'm extremely excited because we've been working hard in code enforcement to get these places at a point where we have the legal right to do this. Then the collaboration internally with community development, with sanitation, to bring together all the powers that be to come down to get this type of thing done.
And with this new program, residents can begin to see more vacant homes demolished in the near future.
Well, this is progress, and this is what DeKalb County citizens have been yearning for. They have been asking, what can we do with homes that have been burned or been foreclosed on or vacant and becomes an eyesore in the community. So this is a process that we had to deal with our legal department through the NREM process. And so now we have a legal ramification and a regulation in place to demolish houses inside our communities.
And with the tearing down of each abandoned home, neighborhoods can begin to rebuild and make their neighborhood what it once was.
Our plans are, we hope that this property will be purchased and somebody will come back in and do another D.R. Horton model and rebuild this home and, just kind of enhance the neighborhood.
This year alone, code enforcement has demolished more than 35 homes using the NREM program. They hope to demolish 45 homes by the end of this year. I'm Jontrika West. Let's talk DeKalb.
Thank you so much, Jontrika, for that story. Awesome job. And thanks to you, Aviva, for joining us on this edition of Let's Talk DeKalb, being our guest, and for all the work that you're doing on the Furry Files.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and I can't wait to see y'all on the Furry Files.
We hope you've enjoyed this special code enforcement edition of Let's Talk DeKalb. If you want to find out more information about the things we've talked about on today's show, here's all the information you'll need to do just that. DeKalb County's code enforcement department can be found online at the county's homepage. Simply go to DeKalbCountyGA.gov and look for planning and sustainability under the quick links area. Or you can call the main code enforcement number at 404-687-3700. The vacant property registry is on the county's homepage also. Just go to, again, that's DeKalbCountyGA.gov/vacant_property_registry. To learn more about registering a vacant property, call 371-2289 or email them at registry@DeKalbCountyGA.gov. You'll also find information about foreclosure registry and that program on the county's homepage. Go to www.DeKalbCountyGA.gov/foreclosure registry. To learn more about how to report a foreclosure, call 404-371-6379 or email foreclosure@DeKalbCountyGA.gov. Also, here at DCTV, we welcome your thoughts about this show and all of our other programming. Send us an email at dctv@DeKalbCountyGA.gov. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Go to YouTube and search for DeKalb County GOV. That's DeKalb County Gov, and you'll find a link there to all of our stories and all of our special programming. Now, make sure you also call us sometimes if you'd like to talk to any of our staff here. That phone number is 404-371-2989, and be sure to check us out on our own website at DCTV-channel23.tv. Well, that wraps up another great show here on Let's Talk DeKalb. We look forward to seeing you on our next edition. We hope you've learned so much about DeKalb County's many efforts at improving and protecting and preserving the quality of life here in DeKalb County. We'll see you next time on Let's Talk DeKalb.